Tonight, you don't need to understand anything. Just sit down, breathe slowly, and allow the stories to drift through your mind like a breeze across a still lake. The stories you are about to hear carry no conclusions. They don't try to convince, don't explain, and don't require interpretation. They simply exist, like the scent of tea when the water has just boiled, like the sound of falling leaves that needs no audience. If your mind is full, let it empty a little. If your heart is tired, let it soften. Because in that gentle surrender, you may touch something that has no name and yet feels deeply familiar. Zen stories are not meant to be remembered. They are meant to be lived. Sometimes a single image will stay with you for a long time. Not because you analyzed it, but because it touched something beyond words. So let each sentence pass by like ripples across the surface of still water. No need to hold on, no need to evaluate. Just be present. And now, let us begin. The empty boat. A lesson in letting go of anger when no harm was truly intended. It was a quiet evening. The river lay still like a sheet of glass, reflecting the soft amber tones of the setting sun. A man rowed his small boat out into the middle of the water, just as he did every evening. This was his sacred time, a moment to leave behind the noise of the world and return to the silence of nature. The breeze was gentle. The sky was fading to gold. The only sound was the dip of the oar and the slow rhythm of his breath. He let the boat drift, eyes closed, soaking in the stillness. But then, he opened his eyes and saw another boat drifting toward him. At first, he called out calmly, "Watch where you're going." The boat kept coming. A bit louder now, he shouted, "Hey, move aside." Still no response. The boat continued on its path, straight toward him. Frustration rose like a flame. His peaceful evening was disturbed. He stood up, ready to curse the careless fool. But as the boats bumped together, he looked inside and saw that the boat was empty. No one was there. It had simply come loose from its mooring and floated downstream with the current. In that moment, the man's anger disappeared. He sat down, feeling a little foolish, and then he smiled. The collision still happened. The event didn't change. What changed was his perception of it. In Zen they say, "How many empty boats do we crash into each day, believing someone is inside? A forgotten reply, a missed greeting, a passing glance. We fill these moments with stories. They ignored me. They meant to hurt me. They should have known better." But what if no one was ever inside? What if it was just the river and a boat and your own mind filling it with meaning? To recognize the empty boat is to step out of the cycle of reactivity. It is to return to stillness, and from stillness to freedom. The monk and the strawberry, a symbol of living fully in the present, even when life is full of danger. Along a narrow mountain path winding through dense forest and rugged cliffs, a monk walked in silence. He lived in a remote monastery hidden deep in the woods, a place where days passed quietly in meditation, simplicity, and the songs of birds. Each morning he would walk this path, not to get anywhere, but to simply be with life, one mindful step at a time. But today, something was different. A sudden roar shattered the stillness. The monk turned his head and saw a tiger leaping from the undergrowth, its eyes fierce, its body powerful and fast. There was no time to think. The monk ran. He fled along the edge of the mountain until he reached a steep cliff. There, jutting from the rocky wall, he spotted a vine. Without hesitation, he grabbed it and began to lower himself down. But as he hung suspended in midair, he looked below and saw another tiger waiting at the bottom. One above, one below, nowhere to go. Just one fragile vine between him and the unknown. And then, he saw it. Growing from a crack in the rock beside him was a wild strawberry, perfectly ripe, glistening red in the mountain light. Gently, the monk reached out, picked the fruit, and placed it in his mouth. Sweet, cool, fragrant. In that one moment, there were no tigers, only the taste of the strawberry. Only this. The Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." We often live caught between fear of what's coming and regret for what's gone. But even between the jaws of death, there may be a single, perfect strawberry waiting to be tasted. The question is, are you here enough to taste it? The two arrows. Pain is real, but suffering comes from our inner reaction. The second arrow. One quiet afternoon, beneath the shade of a forest grove, the Buddha sat surrounded by his disciples. The air was still. Only the soft whisper of wind through leaves and the distant call of birds could be heard. A young monk stepped forward, kneeling with a troubled heart. "Master," he asked, "why do people suffer so much? Even those who practice the path still feel sorrow, fear, and loss. Is there a way to be free from all this pain?" The Buddha looked at him with gentle eyes and replied, "Imagine a person is struck by an arrow. There is pain, sharp, real, and undeniable. This is the first arrow. No one can avoid it. But then," he continued, "that person begins to cry out, 'Who did this to me?' They worry, 'What if I never recover?' They blame themselves, 'If only I had been more careful.' All of this becomes the second arrow, and it is self-inflicted." He paused and let the silence speak. The first arrow is life, sickness, aging, loss, disappointment. The second arrow is how we respond in our mind. And that we can change. We all feel pain when love is lost, when we're misunderstood, when things don't go the way we hoped. But instead of letting pain pass, we hold it, add stories, cast blame, replay moments, and shoot ourselves again and again. Thoughts like, "Why does this always happen to me? This isn't fair. I'm not good enough." Each one is another arrow piercing the same wound. The Buddha taught, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So look gently at your own day. Can you feel where the first arrow landed? And can you see how many others you may have added? You don't have to pick up the bow again. The wound may remain, but you don't have to deepen it. Lay the weapon down and begin to heal. The mustard seed. Everyone has experienced loss. Impermanence is a universal truth. Long ago, in a quiet village nestled among the hills, there lived a young woman named Kisa Gotami. She was kind, gentle, and deeply devoted to her only child, a little boy who filled her world with laughter, warmth, and purpose. But one day the boy fell ill. Despite all efforts to save him, he passed away in her arms. Kisa was shattered. Grief gripped her so tightly that she could not accept what had happened. She clung to her child's lifeless body, refusing to believe he was gone. Desperate, she wandered from house to house, pleading with anyone who would listen. "Please, my son is sick, I need medicine. Someone must have a cure." Most turned away with sorrow in their eyes. Others tried to explain that death had already come, but Kisa couldn't hear them. Finally, an old man took pity on her and said, "There is one who might help, the Buddha. With the last spark of hope in her heart, Kisa found the Buddha and laid the small body at his feet. "Please," she begged, "bring my son back. I will do anything." The Buddha looked at her with deep compassion. "I will help you," he said, "but first, bring me a mustard seed from a home that has never known death." Relieved, Kisa rushed to the village. At the first house, they welcomed her kindly. But when she asked if anyone had ever died there, they said yes, a father. At the next house, it was a sister, then a mother, a child, a friend. House after house, story after story. Kisa heard the same truth. Every home had known loss. As the sun set, she returned to the Buddha, empty-handed, but no longer frantic. She bowed and whispered, "I understand now. Death touches all of us. My grief is not mine alone." The Buddha nodded gently. "Everything that has a beginning has an ending. Make your peace with that, and all will be well." In that moment, Kisa began to heal, not by erasing her sorrow, but by opening her heart to the truth of impermanence and the shared tenderness of being human. The Farmer and the Horse. Good luck or bad luck, who can say? A lesson in letting go of premature judgment. In a quiet village surrounded by open fields and distant hills, there lived a humble farmer. He had only one horse, strong, loyal, and essential for his work. One morning, the farmer woke to find the stable empty. His horse had run away during the night. The neighbors came quickly. "What terrible luck," they said. "You needed that horse. How will you plow your fields now?" The farmer simply replied, "Maybe." They looked at each other puzzled. "Maybe? Surely this is a misfortune." But the farmer said nothing more. A few days later, the horse returned and brought with it 3 wild horses from the mountains. The neighbors rushed over again. "What amazing luck!" they exclaimed. "Now you have more horses than before." The farmer smiled and said, "Maybe." Soon after, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses, but the horse threw him to the ground, and his leg broke badly. He would not walk for months. Again, the neighbors came. "What misfortune," they sighed. "Your only son, hurt like this? Such bad luck." The farmer simply said, "Maybe." Weeks passed. One day, soldiers arrived to recruit young men for war. Many sons from the village were taken, but the farmer's son was left behind, his injury making him unfit to serve. The neighbors returned once more. "What a blessing," they said. "Your son is safe. Surely this is good fortune." And again the farmer said softly, "Maybe." The Buddha once taught, "Nothing is permanent. Everything is subject to change. What looks like misfortune may become grace. What seems like a blessing may bring challenge." We never see the whole story, only the moment we're in. The wise do not cling to quick judgments. They stay open, patient, aware. So next time life surprises you, whether in joy or in sorrow, pause and perhaps simply say, "Maybe." Thank you for joining me on this quiet journey. You've listened deeply, not just with your ears, but with your heart. These 5 stories may have been simple, but within their stillness live truths that continue to unfold. Each one, in its own way, invites us to see differently, to pause before reacting, to soften in the face of fear, to taste the sweetness of now, to release what no longer needs to be carried, and to trust that life is always in motion. Perhaps something in these stories stayed with you, a line, an image, a question. Let it rest gently in your awareness. No need to force understanding. Just notice what lingers. I hope these moments offered you new perspectives, small awakenings, or simply a sense of peace. The wisdom we seek often whispers, Thank you for being still enough to listen. May you carry these stories with kindness, and may they carry you, in return, back to yourself. Until next time, breathe gently and walk slowly. You are already home.